Of course, he's the morning host over at The Answer in Philadelphia and the host of the Chris Stigall Show podcast on the Salem Podcast Network. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Larry, great to talk with you.
It's been quite a week here. Are you with me? Are the walls closing in on the Biden presidency? I believe the walls are closing in on the Biden presidency.
I don't know, but I do know this. If he has friends left, I'm not sure who they are. They're certainly not at DOJ. I've always felt, and I'm not saying anything profound here, but I retweeted a video that I took several months ago when Obama visited the White House. That horrible shot where he and Kamala are shaking hands with people at the reception, and Biden is tapping on his shoulder. Barack, hey, Barack. Right. It's everything you ever needed to know about this pretend presidency.
He's in the background, like exactly how I was at every high school party when the big quarterback from the football team came in. It's like, hey, can I be a part of that conversation? Excuse me.
Who, fellas? Hello?
Exactly.
I know it's sort of a cliche, but it's just that video personifies where we are. I feel like the guy's usefulness is up.
Yeah.
He was useful because he was a household name. He's a doddering old husk. We all know that. He was useful to win an election, to return to normalcy after Trump. But now, hit the bricks, Gramps. We got a new show in town. I don't know who that is, but that's clearly what's going down, don't you think?
So your suggestion here is that this document thing basically ends up being the way they get rid of him.
I think because the only other alternative is they really start to delve into the honest corruption, which they're not going to do. I think they're giving him the option, get out this way, or we have to start talking about Hunter and the laptop and the grift, the money, and where that came from. Obama always, I felt, had both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden in the palm of his hand. They're both corrupt. They're like his hillbilly cousins. And he tolerated them being around, but now he can crush them into extinction, and I think that's what we're watching.
Well, let's face it, I don't think it's a revelation politically to point out that Joe Biden's there because of Barack Obama, right? I think it was after the New Hampshire primary, maybe after South Carolina, where he pretty much called everybody in, called Buttigieg in, called Elizabeth Warren and said, hey, yeah, it's time. We got to coalesce around someone, and it's going to be Biden, right? I mean, he did that.
He did, and he also gave Hillary Clinton the Secretary of State post. But you know what he did about both of them? He's also been very public that, the BlackBerry thing and the private server thing, he distanced himself from that with her. And similarly, he talks about, he was distant from the Hunter Biden gallivanting, globetrotting, collecting checks from foreign governments. Obama was always very careful and clear to distance himself from their money grubbing, which I thought was interesting and notable. So I'm not saying Obama's a great president. I'm just saying he's way smarter than those two.
Yeah, no, amen to that. I agree with you, although low bar. But Chris, how does this play itself out? Is this one of those things where he decides he's not going to run for re-election, but he'll play out his term? Or is it actually more important for him to actually resign so that Kamala Harris runs as an incumbent president in 24?
Yeah, I would think the former. I don't see him, getting on a Marine One and going back to Wilmington with Dr. Jill, doing the Nixon thing. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he rides it out, but he says, hey, I've thought about it carefully to the extent that I can, and I no longer want to be sheriff. No, it's president, sir. Yeah, that too. I want to do that. I think he'll ride it out and then hand it off.
Yeah. Meanwhile, where's my doctor? That's your wife, sir. But you call her doctor all the time. I don't understand.
Is it Kamala? I don't know. Gavin Newsom sure seems to want the gig, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and by the way, those two, they don't like each other much.
No,
which is fantastic. We love that. Okay, so I'm kind of with you. And by the way, there's another key piece of evidence, I think, that suggests that your hypothesis is right, and that is no one's talking about the actual contents of these documents. No one's actually talking about what the documents show us and who might have had access to them that would have been, I don't know, valuable maybe to a foreign country.
It also, for the left, I mean, when you have people like Joy Behar saying, gosh, this really looks bad.
Right.
He's in trouble. I mean, because they spent so much time making Trump out to be like he's like El Chapo. They raid his home, for Pete's sakes, over the same thing.
Yeah.
So when you do this to Grandpa, you basically equate him to Trump, the felon at Mar-a-Lago. Like, it's I don't know how you possibly spin your way out of it, and even the best left-wing pundits can't seem to do it.
Yeah, and they're going to have trouble spinning their way out of some of the revelations we've seen in the last couple of days with regard to COVID-19 and the vaccine as well. And I know that you're very passionate about both those issues. Let's start with the stunning undercover video from Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, seeing a top guy at Pfizer basically musing about, yeah, we might mutate this virus, we might do that. It sounds like, gain of function research that they're doing, all for the purposes of what? Selling more vaccines, forcing more vaccines on us. A couple questions here. I want to start first with the journalism angle. Why is it James O'Keefe doing this? Why is this not CNN, ABC News, New York Times? I mean, this is a huge story, and it's some guy with a hidden camera who works for, James O'Keefe that gets it.
I honestly think it's because a lot of the biggest companies in the country, including our major media companies in the country, don't want to fess up to the fact that they forced all of their employees to take this stupid shot too.
Yeah.
It's going to require a lot of humility from people who don't possess it naturally to admit that forcing everybody that works for them to take the shot was a mistake, and that this isn't working the way they thought it would, and that in fact there are certain people like Joseph Ladapo in Florida who say this is bad for you if you're an 18 to 45-year-old man specifically. More and more people dropping dead. Not saying there's a direct correlation, but saying that even the CDC now has to admit, maybe we should look at the stroke business. It makes so many people look so bad for being such parade leaders and cheerleaders for this shot, when some of us said, hold the phone, I have some questions. And they said, you're a bad person, take the shot.
Well,
it's for people to be humble.
One of those people who asked some questions was Senator Rand Paul, who had some legendary confrontations with Anthony Fauci, Saint Anthony, he's treated like, from the mainstream media. And the question was very specific. Did American tax dollars go to pay for gain-of-function research on coronavirus strains at the Wuhan lab? And boy, unequivocally, I remember, how passionate Fauci was. Absolutely not. You don't know what you're talking about. He was celebrated in the media. Finally, he's pushing back on these crazy Republicans. Gee, I don't know if a lot of people saw this story coming out of the Inspector General of the NIH, not, Josh Hawley's office. The Inspector General said, yeah, the agency that Fauci's in charge of actually funded with U.S. grant money gain-of-function research, and they didn't follow up. They didn't have any oversight. They might not have even known. So Fauci's either a liar or he's incompetent. I don't see any other option here.
Yeah, and that Veritas video that you mentioned, it's the same thing. These people talk about us. I think what's so striking is in private you see that they think of us truly as chattel, like farm animals. They really talk about us like the unwashed masses, basket of deplorables. Or back when you go back to the Obamacare debate, and what was his name? The guy that said it depended on the stupidity of the American people that it would become law. They really do hate our guts, and they really do think we're stupid, and they really do think they can scare us enough into ingesting or inserting or injecting whatever they tell us if they scare us enough. I don't know what it's going to take for most of the American public to feel insulted enough that they throw these people out. I don't know if we've hit it yet. I hope so.
I hope so too. I think much of it comes from the oversight that we're hoping to get from the House, and we've had promises that we would have oversight hearings on Fauci, on gain of function, on the origins of COVID. Do you have faith that that's going to happen?
Green in charge of it. I mean, you got to give Kevin McCarthy credit. He put Marjorie Taylor Greene in charge of COVID oversight. So I kind of like what he's doing, some of these committee appointments. I love the stamping and screaming from people like Swalwell and Schiff and Omar. All the right people are mad, so I got to give McCarthy credit for that.
You do have to love Adam Schiff is so outraged that he can't be on the House Intel Committee. He says, how dare you suggest that I'm a national security threat, that I can't be on House Intel? And then what does he do? He goes right and starts a TikTok account and provides content for the Communist Party in China. I mean, that'll show him.
While the other guy's been shacking up with a Chinese spy. Right. They do it with straight faces, Larry.
Chris Stigall. Well, luckily, they keep us talking, which keeps us employed. And it keeps us downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast over there at the Salem Podcast Network. Chris, always good to talk with you. You have a great weekend, my friend.
Thanks, Lawrence.
There's more to come. You're watching Salem News Channel. It's O'Connor Tonight.